Hello music lovers and vinyl collectors. Uncle Roddus back here again with another video quite soon after my last one, which is a surprise. But in my last video I showed a bunch of stuff that I got off, that I'd been collecting for the last couple of months. But two of the records I ordered, they couldn't get them, which really bugs me that, if you put them on your site. So they have given me refunds. So yesterday I had to go into town, take Dad into the hospital for some checkups and stuff. And while he was getting that done, after I dropped him there, I went out and did a few chores. And last one was to go to Penny Lane and utilise the refund money that I got. The other day I was picking up, I picked out some records out of the garage shelving, and I picked out some blues. I haven't played a lot of blues for a long time. I was on a huge blues kick back in the 90s and early 2000s. From the late 80s, I suppose, actually. So I had quite a lot of blues vinyl. And then when I sold my collection, I went mad on a lot of the CDs. There was a lot of blues compilations around, and they were cheap as chips. They were, the warehouse was selling a lot of them. I picked up a lot from the warehouse. And so I picked out some old blues. I hadn't listened to much for ages and ages and ages, and it was really nice to hear some. I don't have a lot of blues on vinyl anymore, but I still got a lot of my CDs. So I decided to have a look through the blues bins at Penny Lane, and they don't have a huge selection, but they've got a nice little curated selection of blues there. And I went through and I found a bunch of records and sort of put them at the front of the bin, thinking, I might grab those ones, I'll see. And then I had a look around the rest of the shop because, Dad was going to be a few hours at the hospital. But I keep thinking back to the blues stuff. So bugger it, I thought, I'll grab it. And one of the ones that caught my fancy, and talking about the blues CD compilations that I picked up from the warehouse dirt cheap, was this one. And practically all of these I'm going to show you I actually have on CD, but I'm quite keen on the vinyl. Rebirth of the Blues. This is a compilation from 1995, and I didn't even know it had a vinyl release, and it was a fairly cheap record CD. And I'm not actually sure who's released it, but so 1995. So all of the tracks, it says a portrait of the blues in the 90s. B.B. King, Robert Cray, Buddy Guy, Otis Grand. Tutu Jones, I'm not familiar with him. Luther Allison, Otis Rush. And this is a really great compilation, and it's really hi-fi. And the blues at this stage were, they were fabulous recordings, and many of the ones that I have are really, really cool. I think I may have tracked down a couple of CDs of some of the songs on here. There's a Pop Staples song on here actually too, and a John Mayall song actually. This is really cool. The blues to me, to be honest, I don't listen to modern blues. It kind of got a bit stale and a bit bland and a bit kind of, what's the word? Polished, overly polished. But anyway, this is a double LP compilation. And I really don't know what the name of the bloody the label is, so we won't worry about that. It's not too important. So it's I see on Discogs there's not many people have got it. But if you ever see it around and you like your blues, pick it up. There's some great tracks on there. When I pulled out those records the other day and I was having a listen to them, and I was thinking about, I pulled out a John Lee Hooker record that I used to have on cassette many years ago, and it was one that I used to play. I had a wee cassette recorder, and I'd put it by my bed, and I'd put on a tape, and I'd drift off to sleep to that particular tape. And there were quite a few. There were several tapes that I played over and over again to drift. And Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here" was one of them, and "Animals." And another one was an album called "Sitting Here Thinking" by John Lee Hooker, and I think it was from the late 50s. Yeah, great record. And I had it on vinyl back in the day, and I grabbed it. Actually, I think what happened is I might not have had it on vinyl. I actually recorded a vinyl copy that I borrowed from the library. Anyway, digressing. I was thinking about Muddy Waters when I pulled out that John Lee Hooker one, and then I went and had a look in my collection because I thought, I was thinking of a particular Muddy Waters record, and I thought, now haven't I got that on vinyl? I thought I'd seen it recently, and I thought I had it, but anyway, it turns out I didn't. I had it on CD, and fortunately, they actually had a cheap copy of it there at the shop, and it's in pristine condition. I've just cleaned them all up this morning. This is from 1981. This is pretty much Muddy's last recording. I believe it's some recordings that he did in 1981. It's produced by Johnny Winter, and I've had this album on CD and vinyl for many years, and it's a fantastic record, and really, really enjoy it. And the other one, which was with Johnny Winter, was this one, and I also have this on CD, and I had it on vinyl. This is the King B LP is a Australian pressing. This is the New Zealand pressing of the Hard Again LP in 1977. I believe that it said on Discogs that the Muddy Waters King B LP, this one here, was his last recordings plus some outtakes from this LP. Anyway, so yeah, they're kind of stylistically they're pretty similar, yeah, and the production is pretty similar. So they're a couple of probably the last two, his best of his last two LPs. Kind of unfortunately, he died soon after this one came out in 1983, I believe it was. That being said, he was not a young man by that stage. So yeah, two fantastic Muddy Water LPs, and really cool to have those on vinyl. And I've cleaned them all up, and they look absolutely pristine. So I hope that they play really, really well. Yeah, so it's sort of like I remember when I got back into collecting vinyl again, I made a caveat that I wasn't going to buy records that I had on CD. That has well gone out the window. This is another one that I had in my original collection back in the day. Otis band, The Blues Never Die, and Otis was a member of Muddy's band back in the 50s. This is a 1965 release, but this is a reissue from a few years later, I think 1969. I think it was. It's an American issue. James Cotton plays on here, harmonica and vocals. Otis Spann, he's the pianist. James Madison, Dirty Rivers. Dirty Rivers. I wonder if that could possibly be someone by the other name of Muddy Waters. I suspect it is. S.P. Leary on drums. Yeah, I remember this LP, and we really enjoyed it back in the day. So. And I never picked it up on CD, so it's cool to have that back in my collection, and it looked like it cleaned up pretty well. So yeah, cool. Originally sold from Echo Records back in the days when. And then finally, 3 blues compilations, which, yeah, really are really interesting, cool compilations, and I had all these 3 back in the day, and I have 2 of them on CD, and I never did find the third one. So I've got them all on vinyl today. So I'm sure most of you blues aficionados, whatever, know these LPs. This is the volume 1 of the Chicago Blues Today with Junior Wells Band, J.B. Hutto, and Otis Spann, Southside Piano. This is a US, maybe a reissue on Vanguard. So yeah, volume 1. I mean, these were cheap, and apart from the next one I'm going to show you, they look pretty clean. This one is actually a New Zealand, an official New Zealand one. This is an original mono copy. Notice the flip back sleeve. That's what we had in New Zealand in the 60s. That was right through to up to about 1970. And it's on quite heavy duty vinyl, which again was something that was quite common for New Zealand pressings back in the day. Yeah, mono copy. Unfortunately, this one's got it cleaned up beautifully, but there's a big scratch on one of the first tracks on one of the side 1, I believe, which I think is going to stick like hell. Now, this has got Jimmy Cotton's Blues Quartet, and they do a version of Rocket 88. Otis Rush and Homesick James and his Dusters with Willie Dixon on bass. So yeah, these now these were released in 1966. Yeah, so this so awesome. I mean, 50s and 60s are, Chicago blues. That's the pinnacle of blues to me. I just absolutely amazing. So yeah, cool. And then finally, of course, Volume 3, and this is actually a UK pressing. So I've got an American pressing and a New Zealand pressing and a UK pressing. This was on Fontana Records, Johnny Young's Southside Blues Band, Johnny Shines, and Big Walter Horton. And Johnny Shines again with a couple of tracks on the end. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. So this is the UK pressing on Fontana, and I love the old Fontana label. That's quite cool. Can you see that? Yeah. Anyway, so that's a very quick run through of some blues records that I picked up, and yeah, they weren't too expensive. And like I say, those Muddy Water ones are brilliant. Absolutely stunning records, and these are great compilations of Chicago blues in the mid-60s. All right, I shall carry on with my day. Thank you for watching. See you again.